Welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we're going to be carrying on our series. And if you guys remember, what we did last time is that we have created our UI stats updating and health control of our character with event bind that we can use to trigger and handle events on our UI. What does that mean? Is that basically now if you have the UI here, shows that the UI will be effective and this person. Cool. So the next thing that we're gonna do here right now is that we have to create a little UI for our player to see what kind of resources he has. So let's see here what does Unreal Engine has prepared for us here. I don't think on the crop out sample I haven't copied the UI, but that's fine. We're gonna create our own version of it, which is fine. We don't need to worry about that. Right, so let's get started. So let's go back to the content. Let's go to blueprints, characters, player, UI. Cool. Let's open up the UI here. And what I'm going to be doing here is I am going to just create a box. And that box will have... so let's open up Paint and I'll show what I mean. So what we're going to be doing is something like this. Like that, a box, which will have an item, and this is guy here, for example, it's gonna be food, wood, stone, and whatever do we need. And then with that counter we can increase, decrease. We're gonna use the similar logic as we did for health, but we're gonna be using for those resources. All right, cool. So let's get started with this. Don't need to save that. So the UI here, let me just double check. We don't have access to the player, we only have access to the actor. That is great. Right, so let's focus first on the UI, and then we check how we're gonna do this logic. So what we need here is definitely, let's check if I have anything ready on the UI that could help me speed this process up. So widgets, we have icon, input, list, title, window. What do I have on window? That I could probably use something like this. I think I could use that. I could use at least this box. But actually, title, list, inputs. Let me double check icon. Okay, I'm gonna use the list again, but this time I'm gonna create my own version of it. All right. So let's create my own version of this using that as a base. So I am gonna basically create a border, right? Let's get a border, and let's put this border. Actually, let's wrap with vertical box. Let's wrap this with a vertical box, and let's anchor this right on the bottom of the game, right? And what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna just put this something like that. Let's just resize it, put it right here. That's it. Cool. We're gonna compile and save that, which is great. And now let's focus on the border. Right, so the border here, let's see if we have any texture from the master UI that we can use. We have list item. Yeah, we could use the list item again. Where is the texture? There you go. So you can put this one right here. We'll change that image. Let's increase the size of this. I don't think I can, but that's fine. We don't need to increase that right now. But anyway, now inside this list, I'm gonna add simple things. I'm gonna add a horizontal box, and that's gonna be right here. Inside my horizontal box, if I go back to the UI list on the Dev Realm UI, let's open up here and let's go back to, I don't know, icons. Let's get the icon right here, right? Cool, got the icon right there. And I'm gonna add some padding, maybe of 10. So centralize. Okay. And what we're gonna add here is some text. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open up this text right here. I'm just gonna copy the quantity. Oh, we already have one, which is great. It's called WBP title. So we don't need to use that. And we have title. What's this? Just gonna check. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about that. That's great. Cool. Now the title, I want to make sure it is centralized, and I want to align to the left. Actually, I want to align this view. There you go. I want to make sure it's aligned to the left. So here I'm gonna have the icon, and here I'm gonna have the amount. Let's see how good does it look, or how bad it looks. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. I think maybe I'm trying to think the best place that we could change this, because I'm thinking something more like that. So what I can do here is that I'm gonna replace with a horizontal box, and the horizontal box will have a different size of like this, right? So we're gonna have this, and we're gonna have, for example, wood, and we're gonna have another one which is gonna be I don't know, like food, right? And what we can do here is just add some padding to the let's say right, or maybe sorry, to the left. Let's put 20. Now we have this right here. Now we have an option. We can put this or on the top or on the bottom. I think I'm gonna add this on the bottom because it looks a little bit better. So I'm just gonna back the position here to 0, 0, 0. Where is the alignment? I'm gonna put 1. And where is the alignment here? 1. Actually, the alignment here needs to be 0. Great. Okay, so I'm gonna increase this size a little bit. And let me check how many resources do we have. How many resources we're gonna actually create. So on the crop out sample in the environment, we have here buildings, but what do we have in mesh? So we have crops, so we have food, which is really good. So we have trees, we have stones, we have bushes. Do we have any bushes around here? If I press play, I wonder why the color is not working. Let me have a look why this is not coloring. Let me just double check if the material has any issues with this. Missing texture inputs. Color. That it's wind, bubble, lightning, texture simple, missing texture samples. Let me just try to fix this issue, and then I'll be resuming the video. Hi guys, yeah, so I was trying to find why that texture was black and wasn't working properly. It's just that because I export those materials, I had to do some adapting in order to make sure it works. So right now it's working fine, which is great. I'm just gonna show what I did. So the thing that I did here is that I just went to this function called mf simple wind, which is located at the moment in this environment materials math functions simple wind. And what I did here is that I added this t-wind, which it's inside the crop out sample environment materials textures, and I also added the same function to this one here. So in this way we have the material that was missing on our guy here. So we can when we press play right now, we can probably see that we have like a tree here and stuff. But anyway, let's go back to what we're doing, and we're gonna deal with this in a second. Right, okay, so we have right now so we have, let's just browse to exit. So we have food, we have wood, and we have stone. So it's a very classic RTS or survival kind of style, which is great. So So we just need those 3. That's it. Right, so now I'm gonna create this. I'm gonna make this into a component. So I'm gonna call this resource widget, right? And we have the icon and the amount. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go back to where we have our player UI. I'm gonna create a new folder called resource widget, or just gonna call resources. I'm gonna open up here, I'm gonna create a new user interface, and I'm gonna call this WBP resource, WBP resource, yeah, that's it, that's all we need. Open up this guy, nice. I'm gonna go back to this window here, the main player. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna copy, go back to resource, I'm gonna right click and press paste. Make sure you set to desired on screen so you don't have that weird layout here. This won't affect anything, it's just so it doesn't get weird as we have this. Right, now what we need to make sure is that we need to change those automatic, right? So the thing that we're going to be doing here right now is that we're going to create a couple of functions. The first one is custom event called API update quantity or amount, right? And the update amount, what's going to do is that we're going to get the amount, and we're just going to call the method here called, I think it's called API set value, right? So we're going to do cool, and we're going to get the icon, and we're going to create here custom called API set icon, right? We're going to call this method API set value. You probably won't change the icon once it's set up, but for now, what we can actually do here is that on the pre-construct, we can call this API set icon. We're going to promote this to a variable called icon texture. Yeah, that's fine. Make sure it's public, and you expose on spawn, just in case we need to expose this on spawn. Now on the main player, if you get this WBP resource, you should be able to drag and drop this guy right there. And now what we can do is that we can change the icon texture, compile and save. Now let's see if we have any decent decent texture to use. So let's go to texture, let's go to icons here. Do we have any icon? We have like stone, but we don't have anything specific for this. So let's go back to the library that I always go back to, which is called the game icons.net. Let's find stone, right? Let's get this, and let's find, actually, let me just double check which one's the palette that I'm using here. So I'm using this palette here, so I'm gonna just use like a different color. Let me just delete this first. I just want to use like a nice white color, soft white. Actually, no, actually, I'll just leave it black. You guys can just play around with this. I'm just gonna use very simple things: wood and food. Do we have food? Maybe berries, berry, let's see, strawberry. You can use this one. Nice. Alright, now we have this. We're gonna have t-that, t-wood bean, and t-berry, right? And drag and drop that back to the engine, so you don't waste too much time choosing that stuff. Now back to the main player. I'm gonna create food, and I'm gonna bind this to, I don't know, stone, and I'm gonna create another one called wood. Alright, now for the wood, we're gonna use the wood. For the stone, we're gonna use the stone. And for the food, we're gonna use berry. There we go. We're gonna compile and save that. Great. So if I press play, we kind of started to, you know, see a little bit. It doesn't look that great because it has the padding. It's a little bit messed up right now. So what we're going to be doing here is that the padding to the left is going to be 10. The same one for this is going to be maybe 20. Let's put 10. Just keep everything short. There we go. One thing I would like to also do is that in here, I think I can hide the quantity and I can also hide the border. For press play, I don't have the little icon there. So that's what's gonna happen now is that just the default we're gonna leave to, I don't know, like 10. Of course this is gonna be updated automatic, but as you guys can see, the idea is that we're gonna go back to stone, get a stone, that increase. We're gonna go back to tree, get a tree, and then the wood increase. You go back to the bush, and then get food, yeah, and then food increase. Cool. So let's start to do the management for those. How do we call this? For the attributes. Right. So we're gonna close this for now. We don't need it. We're gonna have to do something with that after, but don't worry about this. Cool. One thing that we need here is that we need to pass the reference to the from the player to this asset. So when we create a widget right here, we need to pass the owning player, right? This is the player controller, so we can do something like that. Self, or a better way of doing this, not necessarily a better way, but let's say a more straightforward way of doing this. Actually, okay, I'm gonna show you guys how to do in a different way that we probably used to. Normally you'd create a player reference and pass the player reference, and that's it. Right now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put self, so I'm gonna send player controller right here. And then on the player widget, on the begin play, what you would do is you're gonna get the, how do we call this? How do they call owning player? Get owning player. Get player controller. Actually no. Get owning player. Nice. Now what we can actually do here is that we can cast to the survival controller, right? And we can set this to promote a variable called player controller ref. Cool. And now we can print this and see if that would work. My guess is that this would work fine. It's working fine. Cool. Now that we have the player controller, we have halfway through. Like we can use this to bind all sorts of events, all sorts of things, all sorts of things that will allow us to update the UI and things like that. Right, cool. Now that we have this, what we can do next is that we're gonna go back to the actor component here. Let's go back to here, and now let's play with some variables here. So the actor info, we're gonna have here a couple of informations. So we are gonna have here resource food, we're gonna have resource wood, and we're gonna have resource stone. Nice. And then we're gonna make integer, integer, and integer. Just a quick note that if we're gonna do this, there is another approach for this that we could have created, a similar approach that we did to the DT tables, but that can get very logic complex. So I'm just gonna do it in the most simple way, which is like this. It's not the most effective and optimal way because you're gonna be reusing this code a lot, but this will be our, let's say, best way of doing this action, right? But anyway, so we have here the type. Let me just check here, what types do we have? Can we use those types? base type, blah blah blah. Actually, we can use the base interaction to, yeah, okay. I was just drinking for the future, but anyway. Okay, so we have all those. Let's go back here to the actor component and let's create a logic in here called fn add resource. And we're gonna have another one called fn remove resource. Right, so now you're probably thinking, okay, now we have like three actual actors in here. Food, blah 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 blah. So how do we need to create like three functions for this? So my idea here is to do something a little bit more clever for those resources. So let's do first the add resource, which is always easy, right? So I'm gonna get the information. I'm gonna break this, and here I have access to food, wood, and all that stuff, right? Note that they are all integers, which is great. So what I can do here is that I can break the action, break the data table action here. And what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna get the role name. So actually, I'm gonna do a switch case, switch on name. Right. Cool. So we're gonna have a couple of names in here that we're gonna use. The only, again, the other issue doing by this is that you have to do manually. So okay, let's do it more clever as well. Let's make more safe. Okay, let's make this a little bit more safe. So on the actor type, so we have here we have the type of the actor, base, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. So I'm gonna add a couple of new types. So this one here is gonna be, for example, I don't know, it's gonna be a berry. We're gonna have here a tree, and we're gonna have, for example, stone, right? So we have all that stuff right here. File save here. Cool. So we have berry, bush, stone, and tree. Great. Now that we have the actor type, what we can do here on the components is that we can get a type and we can do a switch case. And if it's a base or everything else, we can handle these types now in a more effective way. We could even create so the type that they are, it's like more generic. So we could just create maybe a type called, I don't know, food resource. We can have wood resource, and we can have a stone resource. Resource. Feel free to change this to whatever you like. But anyway, so let's go back in here, compile and save this, and let's do it. So for the food resource, what we're gonna do here is we are gonna create a new variable. We're gonna promote this to a local variable called the current resource. And what we're gonna do here is that I think we can do a select. Yes, we can do a select on the actor type. Nice. So what we can do here is that we can put a type right there, and we can return the value and set it as temporarily. And what we can do is that we can get, for example, if it's food, we're gonna get the food. If it's wood, we're gonna get the wood. If it's stone, we're gonna get the stone. And then if it's those two, there's nothing we can do about it. So we're just gonna leave it the way it is. All right. We could potentially return an error, but it's fine. We can always change this in the future. Right, so now we know which one is the type of the actor that we're trying to do. Keep in mind that we're probably gonna need this again to set this, but what we're gonna do here is that we are gonna have the amount that we want to increase. This is gonna be an integer. I'm gonna call this adding value. I'm just gonna create this so it doesn't, because we already have a very messy logic in here. or we can just kind of add value. That's it. Way better name. Cool. Now we have this resource. We got to add value. We go all that stuff. The next thing we need to do here is to actually update it. So how can we update this? So the thing that we're gonna do here is that we're gonna do this plus the adding value there, right? And now we need to set the resource, right? So we're gonna copy this logic, we're gonna put it in here, and we're gonna get this guy, and we're gonna set member, and we need to know which one we are gonna set, right? So for this specific case, we need to do a switch case, and what we're gonna do here is just gonna plug this one right there, and we're gonna have food. We're gonna actually need to create different types, and we're gonna have here for stone. Great. So we're gonna have food, wood, and resources, stone resources. So we're gonna have this, that. Great. Now what we are gonna do is that we're gonna add this to that, to that, and to that. And now we can return this stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, this is not very clean. I mean, it works pretty fine. It does what it's supposed to do. It's very clever how the way this works, but it's a little bit overwhelming to follow this logic, especially if you're new to this. But you can have different approaches. You could create it more functions related to add resources, but I feel that right now we are all right, right? And also one thing here that I did as a mistake that I kind of forgot is that the index here, the actor type, must come from here and not from the info, because we're gonna attach this inside our player and we need to change our player. All right, so we're gonna change the index here to be called the the type, actor type, right? And I think how we call type, let's just call type. Cool. And now that type also needs to be reflected in here when we're trying to set this value. I'm just gonna put it right there. And right now, so now if we have an add resource, we select the type, and then it knows what it's trying to do, and then we will actually do this. One thing that I kind of forgot here, I just gonna need to do a couple Control Z's. I apologize for this, is that we need to know the resource, we need the resource amount. That's the only thing that we need to do here. I'm just pressing Control Z and Control Y to go forward and back, but we need the food resource, the wood, and the stone. So I'm gonna go and explain how this code is working, and then in the next video we're gonna do the remove stuff, which is very similar, nothing too complicated. The only thing to change is just you're gonna put a minus here. But right, so what we're doing is that when you call the function, we pass in the resource that we want to increase, and we also pass the type. Now the type will come from the actor that we're interacting with, so that's basically give us for free. And now I need to get information of my current actor, and I need to get the current resource amount. Once I know the current resource amount, I increase that with the value that we have, and now we need to set the value back to the structure. So what we do is that once we set this stuff back, we just need to call this food resource blah 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 here to those members, to the proper one. And one thing I forgot here is that we just need to call this stats update. I'm gonna hold Control, click on this so I can move everything at the same time. Plug this one here, and that pretty much is it. That's how we add the resource. Now we're gonna test this in the next video. So what I'm gonna do now, you guys could feel free to test it. Feel free to even start the logic to remove if you feel like. But in the next video, we're gonna be doing the rest of the course. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.